Welcome back. You have tackled the basics, but mock test 2 is where things get real. These aren't just knowledge checks, they are multi-layered puzzles designed to test your architectural judgment under pressure. Today, we are breaking down the 3 toughest scenario questions, revealing the hidden logic behind the correct answers, and the common pitfalls that trip up even experienced candidates. Master the AWS exam's trickiest questions, not by studying harder, but thinking differently. Now, let's dive into this global puzzle. The core challenge is balancing worldwide speed with real-time data accuracy, all while maintaining ironclad security for payments. The key insight is that these aren't separate problems. The real-time inventory data inherently impacts the user experience in distant regions, and PCI compliance must be woven into the architecture from the very first decision. Think about the physics involved. A signal traveling to a distant database incurs unavoidable delay. A multi-AZ setup in the US creates a fundamental bottleneck. Every customer action in Asia Pacific must wait for a round trip across the planet. The key insight is that local data is the only viable solution for eliminating that inherent latency. The pattern clearly indicates the winning move. Aurora Global Database lets your Asia Pacific region operate on a local read copy. Here's what's really happening. Shielded EC2 instances protect against memory-based attacks, while Global Accelerator ensures your users find that protected, local endpoint via the fastest, most resilient network path. Latency and security are solved simultaneously. Think of your inventory database like a popular book. If everyone in Asia had to fly to the US headquarters just to check if a copy was in stock, the store would collapse from the delay. The key insight is Aurora Global Database provides a local, up-to-date copy of that book. Your Asian customers get an instant answer, without the trans-Pacific wait, solving the performance dilemma. Now, consider the major pitfall. Latency is fixed, but where is your customer data truly residing? The key insight is that replicating a database does not magically relocate its legal jurisdiction. What this means is an answer that solves for speed, while ignoring data sovereignty laws, is the sophisticated distractor waiting to trap you. Forget memorizing services. Master the exam's hidden logic instead. This scenario reveals a critical architectural pattern. The key insight is that streaming and batch workloads require fundamentally different processing engines. What this means is you cannot force real-time data into a batch system. Here's what's really happening. The exam is testing your ability to separate ingestion, storage, and compute based on data velocity and latency requirements. The pattern clearly indicates a single-tier architecture is collapsing. You have a data fire hose hitting your streaming layer, while cold analytics demand cheap storage and bulk processing. What this means is your real-time system is drowning, and your batch jobs are starved. The key insight is you must decouple these workloads, or you will pay for both in cost and performance. This is the architectural heartbeat you need to understand. The real power isn't in the individual services, but in the orchestrated handoff. Kinesis delivers the stream, S3 provides the durable, infinite-scale landing pad, and Glue automates the data discovery. The pattern clearly indicates a self-sustaining system where data, once landed, immediately becomes ready for analysis without manual intervention. Now, hold on. The real breakthrough isn't orchestration, it is intelligent, instantaneous reaction. When a critical anomaly hits the stream, you do not need a complex workflow, you need a single, decisive trigger. A Lambda function embodies that surgical strike. It isolates the alert logic, enabling a direct, real-time response that a broader state machine would only slow down. That's your precision tool. But precision can be expensive. Let's break down the bill. Serverless scales to 0, you pay per trigger. Provisioned capacity is always on, charging hourly. So if your anomaly alerts are rare and unpredictable, serverless Lambda wins. If they're a constant, heavy deluge, that always-on provisioned service could be the more cost-effective engine. You must quantify the load. Most exam guides miss the hidden pattern in AWS's hardest questions. Now, the pattern emerges. Stateful sessions demand sticky session load balancing, which creates a fatal single point of failure. A single server failure destroys all its user sessions. To achieve 99.99%, the system itself must be truly stateless. You must architect for session data persistence outside the web tier. That's the hidden trap. So, you've scaled across zones and enabled sticky sessions. Here's the brutal truth. You've built a fragile illusion. That persistent session data remains trapped, a ticking time bomb on each individual web server. The system's overall availability is now only as strong as its weakest, most stateful node. True resilience demands you dismantle this dependency entirely. You've built a house of cards. Each server holding its own state is like a pillar of sand. If one collapses, everything tied to it is lost forever. True high availability requires a fortress, a centralized, external session store that outlives any single failure. That's the unbreakable pattern. Now, you've configured health checks. But here's the trap. If the ALB marks a server as healthy while its application is actually broken, traffic still flows to a dead end. The key insight is your health check must validate the application logic, not just the server process. Otherwise, your failover is an illusion. So, automating recovery is the true operational test. Without it, you are manually babysitting failures, which defeats high availability. SSM automation executes the exact recovery playbook you define, consistently and instantly. This means your system isn't just monitored, it is self-healing. That's the excellence requirement hidden within the scenario. Forget the right answer. First, destroy the question. You are staring at a massive block of text in the exam. The key insight is that 90% of it is just noise, extra context and constraints. Your first job is to surgically isolate the one, non-negotiable business goal the solution must achieve. What this means is, if you solve that single primary requirement, the rest of the puzzle pieces click into place. And here's the secret the exam does not tell you. You will list every service capability from the text, but that's a trap. The winning move is to do the reverse. You start with the core AWS best practice, then critically eliminate every requirement that it inherently solves. Your solution emerges not from addition, but from ruthless subtraction. Now, let's solidify this approach. The key insight is that correct answers do not just check requirement boxes, they stand firm on foundational principles. What this means is that you eliminate any option that compromises a non-negotiable pillar, like cost efficiency or high availability. Your winning strategy is to identify and discard choices that violate these core constraints first. So you've eliminated the obvious failures. Here's the deciding factor. The exam's logic prioritizes operational simplicity and reducing your management burden. That's why, when multiple services could technically work, the most managed solution will very often surface as the winner. You must test every remaining option against this lens of maximum automation. This principle is a powerful final filter. So, you are deep in a long, complex scenario. The clock is ticking. The key insight is to recognize this moment immediately. When parsing the question details is taking too long, you must act. Flag it decisively and move forward. This preserves precious mental energy and time for the questions you can solve, which is critical for your overall scoring success. Advanced scenarios test your ability to prioritize conflicting requirements and choose the most AWS appropriate pattern. The correct answer always satisfies all core constraints, not just the most obvious one. Understanding the why behind each wrong answer is more valuable than memorizing the right one. Try applying this breakdown method to the other questions in mock test 2 and see which patterns you can now identify.